Here in the middle of a film to find myself one of the actors. The chief has asked me to his house for dinner. Around 8, Rogers. Help yourself to a drink, Rogers. He gestured to the drink wagon. There's keef, of course, if you want it. I mixed myself a short drink and declined the keef. It gives me a headache. I'd seen the chief smoking with his Arab contacts, but that didn't give me a license to smoke. Besides, it does give me a headache. The chief's cover story is an eccentric old French comte who is translating the Koran into Provençal. And sometimes he will pull cover and bore his guest catatonic. You see, he really knows Provençal in Arabic. The chief wasn't pulling cover tonight. He was expansive, and watch your step, Rogers, I told myself, sipping a weak scotch. So I think you're the man for a highly important, and I may add, highly dangerous assignment, Rogers. You fell for that crap. Well, sir, he is impressive, I said cautiously. He's a cheap old ham, said the chief. He sat down and filled his keep pipe with one hand. He smoked and blew the ash out, absently caressing a gazelle that nuzzled his knee. Gotta stay ahead of the commies, or everybody's kids will be learning Chinese. What a windbag. I endeavored to look noncommittal. Have you any idea what we're doing here, Rogers? Well, no, sir. I thought not. Never tell them what you want until you've got them where you want them. I'm going to show you a documentary film. Well, I happened onto this good thing through a Mexican shoeshine boy. You, Kiki, come out here and show Mr. Rogers how pretty you are. Kiki stands in the doorway smiling. Now that lad, he's a doll, isn't he? He's one of the best deep trance mediums I have ever handled. Through him, I was able to teleport myself to a Mayan set and bring back the pictures. The whole thing was so frantic, I cooled it all the way up in my reports. All I said was, it looks like a lovely weapon. That's code for weapon of unlimited potential. Now, he's hotting up now. The old priest rocks back and forth. His lips part, and a dry insect music buzzes out. It's known as singing the pictures. The principle is alternating current. Now, that old fuck can alternate pain and pleasure on a subvocal, perhaps even a molecular level, 60 times a second. Goading the natives around on stock probs into the prearranged molds laid down in the sacred books. Now, few singers can deliver direct current, and they are only called in an emergency. The control system you have just seen broke down. This happened quite suddenly. A whole generation was born that felt neither pain nor pleasure. There were no soldiers to bring captives from other tribes, since soldiers would have endangered the control machine. They relied entirely on local criminals for the pain and pleasure pictures. As a last resort, they called in the incomparable yellow serpent. The serpent is carried in on his amber throne, blue snake eyes, skin like yellow parchment, 2 long serpent fangs grafted into the upper jaw. As the current pulses through him, he begins to rock back and forth. He shifts from AC to DC. A thin siren wail breaks from his lips, now open to the yellow fangs. Death, death, death! The pictures crash and leap from his eyes, blasting worker and priest alike to smoldering fragments. Death, death, death! A thin siren wail rises and falls over empty cities. This secret of the ancient Mayans, which few are competent to practice. When comes such another singer as the old yellow serpent? Now, the technical department think we are all as crazy as our way of life is reprehensible. Bring us the ones that work, they say. Facts, figures, personnel. Put that joker Death on the line. Take care of Mayo and his gang of cutthroats. I was privileged to assist, in a manner of speaking, at the Yellow Serpent's last broadcast in Washington, D.C. Room in the Pentagon. Generals, CIA, State Department, fidget about with that top secret, hottest thing ever look. Open line to the president, strategic and NATO standing by. The old Yellow Serpent is carried in by 4 Marine guards. He begins to rock back and forth. He breathes in baby cousins, breathes out death rattles. He sucks in wheat fields and spits out dust bowls. He's just warming up, says a CIA man to a 5-star general. The old serpent shifts to D.C. blazing like a comet. Death, death, death. The pictures lash and crackle from his eyes. Death, death, death. A wall blows out, spilling brass 18 floors to the street. Death, death, death. And now the serpent swings his whip in the sky. Here live stupid, vulgar sons of bitches who thought they could hire death as a company cop. Empty streets, old newspapers in the wind, a rustle of darkness and wires. Old Sarge smiles. The Green Nun has stopped the unfortunate traveler in front of her red brick priory set among oak trees, green lawns, and flower beds. Oh, do come in and see my mental ward and the wonderful things we are doing for the patients. She shows Audrey into a bare, cold wardroom, crayon drawings on the wall. A nun walks up and down with a ruler. The patients are busy with plasticine and crayons. It looks like a kindergarten, but some of the children are middle-aged. The door clicks shut and her voice changes. You'll find plasticine and crayons over there. You must have permission to leave the room for any purpose. A paunchy guard with a tin helmet and wide leather belt stands beside her. And so the years passed. Sometimes, as a special treat, there were nature walks in the garden. Bob there with 3 snarling Alsatians on a lead. The patients could watch a praying mantis eat her mate. Daily confessions were heard by the Green Nun on a lie detector that could also give a very nasty shock in the nasty places, while the Green Nun intoned slowly, "Thou shalt not bear false witness." These confessions she wrote out in green ink, keeping a separate ledger book for each patient. Once, after a particularly degraded confession, she levitated to the ceiling in the presence of an awed young nun. Every night she put on Christ's drag with a shimmering halo and visited some young nun in her cell. She liked to think of herself as the nun in a poem by Sarah Teasdale. Infinite tenderness, infinite irony is hidden forever in her closed eyes, who must have learned too well in her long loneliness how empty wisdom is, even to the wise. She was an inveterate hypochondriac and dosed herself liberally with laudanum. As a result, she suffered from chronic constipation, which could put a comely young nun on high colonic duty. This honor was invariably followed by a nocturnal visit from Christ with a strap on. In her youth, the Green Nun had toyed with the idea of ordering Bob to raid a sperm bank. Then she could claim the Christ child. She put aside these ambitious thoughts. Her work in the kindergarten was more important than worldly glamour, her picture on the cover of Life. This reading is from an unpublished book entitled Apuk is Here. Apuk is the Mayan god of death, but unlike the medieval Christian conception of death, Apuk was not regarded by the Mayans as purely negative and destructive, but simply as a stage of life, making way for rebirth and regeneration. This book concerns an American billionaire who is obsessed by a desire for immortality. He discovers lost Mayan books containing some of the basic secrets of life and death, and uses this knowledge to set up a rather ill-advised control machine. Train whistle, train in lunar landscape of northern Mexico. Cut to Mr. Hart's private car, books spread out on a table. He is reading the books laboriously from a Spanish key. Now here's the young corn god turning into death. When I die, I become death. Death is the seed from which I grow. Now this dying to produce oneself sounds awfully hit and miss to canny young Hart. Obsessed by his desire for immortality, he does not grasp the full significance of this simple survival formula, nor the seeds of disaster it contains. Mr. Hart certainly does not think of himself as a Christian, yet all his thinking is formed by Western Christianity. He thinks in either-or, that is, one God terms. He is looking for the secrets of fear and death. Must be one thing or the other, he tells himself. It's all very simple. The priests became death, and therefore they could not die. Can't leave any loose ends trailing about. At dawn, death came to the hut. The youth tried to face him and hurl a magic object. He almost succeeded, for death was old and tired. The weakness of death in this passage alarms him. Perhaps the priests, postulating all those millions of years in which they had existed, killed themselves with old age. Mr. Hart is not really an intelligent man. He does not at this point even guess the real reason for these expeditions into remote past time. The priests made calculations on their calendar dating back 400 million years. Why? Mr. Hart will find out in time. He will find out that death needs time. Death needs time like a junkie needs junk. And what does death need time for? The answer is so simple. Death needs time for what it kills to grow in, for Apuk's sweet sake. You stupid, vulgar, greedy, ugly American death sucker. Like this. Death walks out into the field and kills the young corn god. The young corn god becomes a death seed from which another young corn god will grow. Birth and death in all its rich variety of an old outhouse. However, there is always more death than growth, even in the simplest terms of soil exhaustion. Every time you kill the young corn god, life goes out of him. The seed grows slower. The seed loses vitality. The corn god looks like a soulless zombie. And finally, the seed does not grow. No time for death. So death has to travel. Death takes the young corn god back to a time when he hasn't been hit so often he is punch drunk. Back to his youth. Back, back, back. Clickety, clickety, clack. back to the Garden of Eden. Sure, death will burn that down too. The Mayan priests made these expeditions into past time because they had burned down present time. Mayan scholars have wondered why they did not make more calculations into future time. They were overdrawn, checks bounced, nothing and nobody there. Now, this did not happen right away. You don't get hooked on the first shot, and even when you are hooked, you can control it for a while, maybe stay on the same dose. But fix yourself on a junkie on heroin for several thousand years. Control that habit? So he goes back to the time when his habit was manageable. And when it gets out of hand, there he goes further back. Look at the Mayan pantheon and the calendar, and you will see that the Mayans, as experienced vampires and time junkies, were keenly aware of this impasse and took what precautions they could to avoid it by balancing the gods of life and death. Not as Mr. Hart's accounts are balanced on an either-or basis, but through a series of transitional shadings. In the transitional forms of death, death to some extent identifies with the man he kills and shares his death. Now this seems very subversive to Mr. Hart, who never identifies with his victim. To do so would put him in danger of becoming a victim himself. Yet at some point death must take this risk. Death must become immortal and die in order to be reborn. Hart is not willing to take this risk. He wants to be death, but he will not know death. Death will not serve a stranger who cannot prove his title, a gringo who fears the very word and sets up a house rule that the word death may not be pronounced in his presence. Hart cannot read the Mayan books. He is reading them as one who reads Moby Dick to find out about whaling, and to hell with Captain Ahab and the white whale. What is written there, long dormant, is now a virulent strain of virus, waiting to escape, to leap from the pages and infect millions of human hosts. Not with Mr. Hart's greedy, Bible Belt, 19th century capitalistic message, but with their own messages, cruel, tender, ambiguous, shameless, slimy, virginal, capricious, immeasurably old and ravenously young. Itzamna, spirit of early mists and showers. Ixta, goddess of ropes and snares. Ixchel, the spider web that catches the dew of morning. Zui Kak, virgin fire, patroness of infants. Atziz, the master of cold. Kaku Pocket, who works in fire. Ixtubtun, she who spits out precious stones. Hexchanchan, the dangerous one. Apuk, the destroyer. Look at these poisonous color maps where flesh trees grow from human sacrifice. Listen to these sniggering, half-heard words of tenderness and doom from lips spotted with decay. Mr. Hart, who would be death, does not know to whom he is a speak. He intends to occupy the space of Hunab Ku in the Mayan pantheon. Hunab Ku, the one divine, of him no statue or picture was made, for he was incorporeal and invisible. He was, in short, the operator of the control machine, and in consequence did not include himself as data. However, having reprogrammed the machine to eliminate the troublesome good gods and those of ambiguous allegiance, Mr. Hart will soon encounter an acute time shortage. Death, now freed from all control, will use up all the time. And any control machine needs time. Yes, Mr. Hart, the Mayans ran it into the ground too, but they didn't do it as quick as you will, or cut themselves off with a habit as hoggish as yours. At this point, I put some questions to control. I worry about this control. Some years ago in London, I contacted two computer programmers who purported to represent something that calls itself control, allegedly from the planet Venus. Control will answer any question for $1. You give your question to the programmers who feed it into a computer some way, and out comes the answer. So these are the actual questions that I sent in with my dollars and the answers I got back from Control, whoever or whatever Control may or may not be. Question: if Control's control is absolute, why does Control need to control? Answer: Control needs time. Exactly. Control needs time in which to exercise control, just as death needs time in which to kill. If death killed everyone at birth, or Control installed electrodes in their brains at birth, there would be no time left in which to kill or control. Question: is control controlled by its need to control? Answer: yes. Question: why does control need humans, as you call them? Your knowledge of the local dialects leaves literacy to be desired. Answer: wait. Wait. Time, a landing field. The Mayans understood this very well. Mr. Hart does not. He thinks in terms of losers and winners. He will be a winner. He will take it all. Last take: Mr. Hart's deserted, ruined mansion, graffiti on the walls. Ah Pook was here. Here lived a stupid, vulgar son of a bitch who thought he could hire death as a company cop. This reading is from a novel in progress entitled Cities of the Red Night. And this passage concerns a virus which occasions biologic alterations in those who survive, and these alterations are genetically conveyed, giving rise to a race of mutants known as the fever freaks. Some of these mutations are favorable and some otherwise. A top government official bluntly warned, virus B23, now loose in our overcrowded cities, is an agent that produces biologic changes in those affected, fatal in many cases, permanent and hereditary in those who survive and become carriers for that strain, which, as a matter of survival, they will spread as far and fast as possible to destroy enemies and quite literally make friends. Junkies, however, are only lightly affected by the virus and remain characteristically unchanged. Virus B23. Dr. Pearson was a discreet addict who kept himself down to 3 shots a day. Half a grain in each shot, he could always cover for that. Towards the end of an 8-hour shift, he tended to be perfunctory. So when he got the call from emergency, he hoped it wouldn't take long or keep him overtime. Of course, he could always slip a half grain under his tongue, but that was wasteful. And he liked to be in bed when he took his shot and feel it hit the back of his neck and move down the backs of his thighs while he blew cigarette smoke towards the ceiling. As he reached for his bag, he noticed that he had barked his knuckles. He couldn't remember where or when, and that happens when you are feeling no pain. "It looks like measles, doctor." The doctor looked at the boy's face with distaste. he disliked children, adolescents, and animals. The word cute did not exist in his emotional vocabulary. There were red blotches on the boy's face, but they seemed rather large for measles. Well, get it in here, nurse, whatever it is, away from the other patients. Not that I care what they catch, it's just hospital procedure. The boy was wheeled into a cubicle. Fingers cold with distaste, the doctor folded the sheet down to the boy's waist and noticed that he was wearing no shorts. Why is he naked? He snapped at the attendants. Well, he was like that when they picked him up, doctor. Well, they might have put something on him. He turned back to the attendants. What are you standing there for? Get out. And you, nurse, what are you gawking at? Order a bed in isolation. His temper was always evil when he ran over like this, but right after a shot, he could be nice in a dead, fishy way. The doctor turned back to the boy on the bed. His duty as a physician is clear. Hippocrates points sternly to the sheet. Well, I suppose I have to look at the little naked beast. He folded the sheet down to the boy's knees. The boy had an erection. The genitals and the area adjacent to the genitals were bright red, like a red bikini. The doctor leaped back as he would from a striking snake, but he was too late. A gob of semen hit the back of his hand right on the skin knuckles. He wiped it off with an exclamation of disgust. He recalled later that he felt a slight tingling sensation, which he didn't notice at the time. Being that disgusted with the human body, he wondered why he had chosen the medical profession. And this dirty child was delaying his fix. You filthy little beast, he snapped. The boy sniggered. The doctor pulled the sheet up to the boy's chin. He was washing his hands when the nurse came in with a stretcher table and an orderly to take the boy to isolation. The doctor sniffed. My God, what's that smell? I don't know what this is, nurse, but it's rather disgusting. He seems to be in some state of sexual delirium. He also seems to be giving out a horrible odor. Order the broad spectrum. Cortisone, of course. It may be an allergic condition. Red-haired animals are especially liable. And the usual antibiotics. If the sexual condition continues, do not hesitate to administer morphine. The doctor gasped and clasped a handkerchief in front of his mouth and nose. Get it out of here! He always referred to a patient as the disease. You have a typhoid bed in isolation. No, we don't. Well, it can't stay here. He had barely settled in bed after his fix when the phone rang. It was the super. Seems we have an epidemic on our hands, doctor. All staff report back to the hospital immediately. Could it be that dirty little boy, he thought, as he dressed and picked up his satchel and walked to the hospital. He saw there was a police line round the entrance. Oh, yes, doctor, right over there for your mask. I'll help you put it on, doctor. A brisk young girl in some sort of uniform rubbed her tits against him in a most offensive manner. And before she got the mask on, he smelled it and he knew. It was that dirty little boy. Inside was a scene from Dante. Stretchers side by side in the corridors, sperm all over the sheets, the walls, and the floor. Be careful, doctor. A garrulous old nurse caught his arm in time. Just put one foot solidly in front of the other, doctor. That's right. It's terrible, doctor. The older patients are dying like flies. I don't want to hear any generalities, nurse. Take me to my ward. Well, doctor, you can have the northeast wing if you want, right here. Every sort of copulation was going on in front of him. Every disgusting thing they could think of. Some of them had pillowcases and towels wrapped around each other's necks in some kind of awful contest. As some of these crazed patients seemed in danger of strangulation, he ordered attendants to restrain them, but no attendants were available. Well, we'll start with morphine and the curare derivative, nurse. Sorry, doctor, the morphine stocks are exhausted on the older patients. They go into the most awful spasms at the end, doctor. At this terrible pronouncement, the doctor turned pale as death. He slumped to the floor in a faint, his face covered with red blotches. By the time they got his clothes off, his body was also affected, and spontaneous orgasms were observed. Most distasteful thing I ever stand still for, he told himself later, but it's still an easy score. He recovered from the fever because of his addiction, and the word went out that junk was the only insurance against the fever. No stemming the black market, the government concedes and legalizes. Now begins a deadly war of extermination between the junkies and the fever freaks. Here's the old junkie CO taking the young lieutenant on his rounds. They're out there, son, he points beyond the barbed wire and gun turrets, waiting, watching, hatching every filthy thing in their diseased minds and bodies. They'll sell you red hots for junk, kill you in a nasty sex spasm. They want a fever world. That's what we have to deal with out here. Well, perhaps sometime, somewhere, the human race will remember that a few white men stood between them and the fever freaks. What an old windbag, the boy thought. Where is my fix? We're on short rations here, son. Quarter G 3 times a day. Captain, that is short. We have to ration it, son. God help us if we ever run out and fall into their hands. Swear you'll kill me first, sir. Of course, son. The Army always takes care of its own. The hipster bebop junkies never showed at 103rd Street. The 103rd Street boys were all old-timers, thin, sallow faces, bitter, twisted mouths, stiff-fingered, stylized gestures. There's a junk gesture that marks the junkie like the limp wrist marks the fag. The hand swings out from the elbow, stiff-fingered, palm up. They were of various nationalities and physical types, but they all looked alike somehow. They all looked like junk. There was Irish, George the Greek, Pentapon Rose, Louis the Bellhop, Eric the Fag, the Beagle, the Sailor, and Joe the Mex. Several of them are dead now. Others are doing time. There are no more junkies at 103rd and Broadway waiting for the connection. The connection has gone somewhere else, but the feel of junk is still there. It hits you at the corner, follows you along the block, then falls away like a discouraged panhandler as you walk on. Joe the Mex had a thin face with a long, sharp, twitchy nose and a down-curving, toothless mouth. Joe's face was lined and ravaged, but not old. Things had happened to his face, but Joe was not touched. His eyes were bright and young. There was a gentleness about him, common to many old-time junkies. You could spot Joe blocks away. In the anonymous city crowd, he stood out sharp and clear, as though you were seeing him through binoculars. He was a liar, and like most liars, he was constantly changing his stories, altering time and personnel from one telling to the next. One time he would tell a story about some friend. Next time he would switch the story around to give himself the lead. He would sit in the cafeteria over coffee and pound cake, talking at random about his experiences. We knew this Chinaman has some stuff stashed, and we try every way to make him tell us where it is. We have him tied to a chair. I light matches. He made a gesture of lighting a match, and put them under his feet. He won't say nothing. I feel so sorry for that man. Then my partner hit him in the face with his gun, and the blood ran all down his face. He put his hands over his face and drew them down to indicate the flow of blood. When I see that, I turn sick at my stomach, and I say, let's get out of here and leave the man alone. He ain't going to tell us nothing. Louis was a shoplifter who had lost what nerve he ever had. He wore a long, shabby, black overcoat that gave him the look of a furtive buzzard. Thief and junkie stuck out all over him. Louis had a hard time making it. I heard that at one time he had been a stool pigeon, but the time I knew him, he was generally considered right. George the Greek did not like Louis and said he was just a bum. Don't ever invite him to your home. He'll take advantage. He'll go on the nod in front of your family. He's got no class to him. George the Greek was the admitted arbiter of this set. He decided who was right and who was wrong. George prided himself on his integrity. I never beat nobody. George was a 3-time loser. The next time meant life as an habitual criminal. So his life narrowed down to the necessity of avoiding any serious involvements. No pushing, no stealing. He worked from time to time on the docks. He was hemmed in on every side, and there was no way for him to go but down. When he couldn't get junk, which was about half the time, he drank and took goofballs. He had 2 adolescent sons who gave him a lot of trouble. George was half sick most of the time in this period of scarcity, and no match for these young louts. His face bore the marks of a constant losing fight. The last time I was in New York, I couldn't find George. The 103rd Street boys are scattered now, and no one I talked to knew what happened to George the Greek. Fritz, the janitor, was a pale, thin little man who gave the impression of being crippled. He was on parole after doing 5 years because he scored for a pigeon. The pigeon was hard up for someone to turn in, and the narcotics agent urgently needed to make an arrest. Between them, they built Fritz up to a big-time dope peddler and smashed a narcotics ring with his arrest. Fritz was glad to attract so much attention, and he talked complacently about his nickel in Lexington. The fag was a brilliantly successful lush worker. His scores were fabulous. He was the man who gets to a lush first, never the man who arrives on the scene when the lush is lying there with his pockets turned inside out. A sleeping lush, known as a flop in the trade, attracts a hierarchy of scavengers. First come the top lush workers like the fag, guided by a special radar. They only want cash, good rings, and watches. Then come the punks who will steal anything. They take the hat, shoes, and belt. Finally, brazen, clumsy thieves will try to pull the lush's overcoat or jacket off him. The fag was always first on a good lush. One time he scored for $1,000 at the 103rd Street station. Often his scores ran into the hundreds. If the lush woke up, he would simper and feel the man's thigh as though his intentions were sexual. From this trick, he got his moniker. He always dressed well, usually in a tweed sports coat and gray flannels. A European charm of manner and a slight Scandinavian accent completed his front. No one could have looked less like a lush roller. He always worked alone. His luck was good, and he was determined to avoid contamination. Sometimes contact with the lucky can change a man's run of bad luck, but generally it works the other way. Junkies are an envious lot. 103rd Street envied the fag his scores, but everyone had to admit he was a right guy and always good for a small touch. Swim naked lunch. I can feel the heat closing in, feel them out there making their moves, setting up their devil doll stool pigeons. Crooning over my spoon and dropper I throw away at Washington Square Station. Vault a turnstile and 2 flights down the iron stairs, catch an uptown A train. Young, good-looking, crew-cut, Ivy League advertising exec type fruit holds the door back for me. I'm evidently his idea of a character. You know the type, comes on with bartenders and cab drivers talking about right hooks and the Dodgers. Call the counterman in Needix by his first name. A real asshole. And right on time, this narcotics dick in a white trench coat. Imagine tailing somebody in a white trench coat, trying to pass as a fag, I guess, hit the platform. I can hear the way he would say it, holding my outfit in his left hand, right hand on his piece. I think you dropped something, fella. But the subway is moving. So long, Flatfoot, I yell, giving the fruit his B production. I look into the fruit's eyes, take in the white teeth, the Florida tan, the $200 sharkskin suit, the button-down Brooks Brothers shirt, and carrying the news as a prop. The only thing I read is Little Abner. A square wants to come on hip, talks about pot, and smoke it now and then, keep some around to offer the fast Hollywood types. Thanks, kid, I say. I can see you're one of our own. His face lights up like a pinball machine with stupid pink affect. Grassed on me, he did, I said morosely. I drew closer and laid my dirty, junky fingers on his sharkskin sleeve. And us blood brothers in the same dirty needle. I can tell you in confidence he is due for a hot shot. This is a cap of poison junk sold to an addict for liquidation purposes, often given to informers. Usually the hot shot is strychnine since it tastes and looks like junk. You ever see a hot shot hit, kid? I saw the gimp catch one in Philly. We rigged his room with a one-way whorehouse mirror and charged Osowski to watch it. He never got the needle out of his arm. They don't if the shot is right. That's the way they find them, dropper full of clotted blood hanging out of a blue arm. The look in his eyes when it hit, kid, it was tasty. Recollect when I'm traveling with a vigilante, best shake man in the industry, out in Chi. We was working the fags in Lincoln Park. So one night the vigilante turns up for work in cowboy boots and a black vest with a hunk of tin on it and a lariat slung over his shoulder. So I says, "What's with you? You wig already?" He just looks at me and says, "Feel your hands, stranger," and hauls out an old rusty six-shooter. And I take off across Lincoln Park, bullets cutting all around me. And he hangs 3 fags before the fuzz nail him. I mean, the vigilante earned his moniker. You ever notice how many expressions carry over from queers to con men, like raise, letting someone know you're in the same line? Get her. Get the paregoric kid giving that mark the build-up. Higger Beaver wooed him much too fast. The shoe store kid, he got that moniker shaking down fetishes in shoe stores, says, "Give it to a mark with KY and he will come back moaning for more." And when that kid spots a mark, he begins to breathe heavy. His face swells and his lips turn purple like an Eskimo in heat. Then slow, he comes on the mark, feeling for him, palpating him with fingers of rotten ectoplasm. And the fruit is thinking, what a character. Wait till I tell the boys in Clark's about this one. He's a character collector would stand still for Joe Gould's Seagull Act. So I put it on him for a Sosky and made him meet to sell him some pot, as he calls it, thinking I'll catnip the jerk. Well, I said, tapping my arm, duty calls, as one judge said to another. Be just, and if you can't be just, be arbitrary. I cut into the automat, and there is Bill Gaines, huddled in someone else's overcoat, looking like a 1910 banker with paresis. And old Bart, shabby and inconspicuous, dunking pound cake with his dirty fingers shiny over the dirt. I had some uptown customers Bill took care of, and Bart knew a few old relics from hot smoking times. Spectral janitors gray as ashes, phantom porters sweeping out dusty halls with a slow old man's hand, coughing and spitting in the junk-sick dawn. Retired asthmatic fences in theatrical hotels. Petipon Rose, the old madam from Peoria. Stoical Chinese waiters never show sickness. Bart sought them out with his old junkie walk, patient and cautious and slow. Dropped into their bloodless hands a few hours of warmth. I made the round with him once for kicks. You know how old people lose all shame about eating, and it makes you puke to watch them? Old junkies are the same about junk. They gibber and squeal at sight of it. The spit hangs off their chin, their stomach rumbles, and all their guts grind in peristalsis while they cook up, dissolving the body's decent skin. You expect any moment a great blob of protoplasm will flop right out and surround the junk. Really disgust you to see it. Well, my boys will be like that one day, I thought, philosophically. Isn't life peculiar? In Mexico, the gimmick is to find a local junkie with a government script whereby they are allowed a certain quantity every month. Our man was old Ike, who had spent most of his life in the States. I was traveling with Irene Kelly, and her was a sporting woman. In Butte, state of Montana, she gets the coke cars and runs through the hotel screaming Chinese coppers chase her with meat cleavers. I knew this cop in Chicago sniffed coke, used to come in form of crystals, blue crystals. So he go nuts and starts screaming the Federals is after him and run down this alley and stick his head in the garbage can. And I said, what you think you are doing? And he say, get away or I shoot you. I got myself hit good. We are getting some sea on our exit this time. Shoot it in the main line, son. You can smell it going in, clean and cold in your nose and throat. Then a rush of pure pleasure right through the brain, lighting up those sea connections. Your head shatters in white explosions. 10 minutes later, you want another shot. You'll walk across town for another shot. But if you can't score for C, you eat, sleep, and forget about it. Now, this is a yen of the brain alone, a need without feeling and without body. Earthbound ghost need, rancid ectoplasm swept out by an old junkie, coughing and spitting in the sick morning. One morning you wake up and take a speedball and feel bugs under your skin. 1890 cops with black mustaches block the doors and lean in through the windows, snarling their lips back from blue and gold embossed badges. Junkies march through the room singing the Muslim funeral song, bear the body of Bill Gaines, stigmata of his needle wounds glow with a soft blue flame. Purposeful, schizophrenic detectives sniff at your chamber pot. It's the coke horrors. Sit back and play it cool. And shoot in plenty of that GIM. Day of the Dead, I got the chucks and ate my little Willie's sugar skull. He cried and I had to go out for another. Walked past the cocktail lounge where they blasted the high-lie bookie. The lavatory's been locked for 3 hours solid. I think they're using it for an operating room. Nurse, I can't find her pulse, doctor. Dr. Benway. Maybe she got it up her snatch in a finger stall. Nurse. Adrenaline, doctor? Dr. Benway. The night porter shot it all up for kicks. He looks around and picks up one of those rubber vacuum caps at the end of a stick they use to unstop toilets. He advances on the patient. "Make an incision, Dr. Limp," he says to his appalled assistant. "I'm going to massage the heart." Dr. Limp shrugs and begins the incision. Dr. Benway washes the suction cup by swishing it around in the toilet bowl. "Shouldn't it be sterilized, Doctor?" "Very likely, but there's no time." He sits on the suction cup like a cane seat, watching his assistant make the incision. "You young squirts couldn't lance a pimple without an electric vibrating scalpel with automatic drain and suture. Soon we'll be operating by remote control on patients we never see. We'll be nothing but button pushers. All the skill is going out of surgery, all the know-how and make do. Did I ever tell you about the time I performed an appendectomy with a rusty sardine can? And once I was caught short without instrument one and removed an uterine tumor with my teeth. That was in the upper effendi, and besides, the incision is ready, Doctor." Dr. Benway forces the cup into the incision and works it up and down. Blood spurts all over the doctors, the nurse, and the wall. The cup makes a horrible sucking sound. "I think she's gone, Doctor." "Well, it's all a day's work." He walks across the room to a medicine cabinet. "Some fucking drug addict has cut my cocaine with Santa Flush. Nurse, send the boy out to fill this RX on the double." Dr. Benway is operating in an auditorium filled with students. "Now, boys, you won't see this operation performed very often. There's a reason for that. You see, it has absolutely no medical value. No one knows what the purpose of it originally was, or if it had a purpose at all. Personally, I think it was a pure artistic creation from the beginning. Just as a bullfighter with his skill and knowledge extricates himself from danger, he has himself invoked, so in this operation the surgeon deliberately endangers his patient and then, with incredible speed and celerity, rescues him from death at the last possible split second. Did you ever see Dr. Tetrazzini perform? I say perform advisedly, because his operations were performances. He would start by throwing a scalpel across the room into the patient, and then make his entrance like a ballet dancer. His speed was incredible. "I don't give them time to die," he would say. Tumors put him in a frenzy of rage. "Fucking undisciplined cells," he would snarl, advancing on the tumor like a knife fighter. A young man leaps down into the operating theater and, whipping out a scalpel, advances on the patient. "And espontaneo, stop him before he guts my patient." Espontaneo is a bullfighting term for a member of the audience who leaps down into the ring, pulls out a concealed cape, and attempts a few passes with the bull before he's dragged out of the ring. The orderly's scuffle with the espontaneo is finally ejected from the hall. The anesthetist takes advantage of the confusion to pry a large gold filling from the patient's mouth. Pat's Terminal has organized a purple-ass baboon stick for motorcycles. The huntsmen have gathered for the hunt breakfast in the Swarm Bar, a hangout for elegant pansies. The huntsmen strut about with imbecile narcissism in black leather jackets and studded belts, flexing their muscles for the fags to feel. They all wear enormous falsy baskets. Every now and then one of them throws a fag to the floor and pisses on him. They are drinking Victory Punch, compounded of paregoric, Spanish Fly, heavy black rum, Napoleon brandy, and canned heat. The punch is served from a great hollow gold baboon, crouched in snarling terror, snapping at a spear in his side. You twist the baboon's balls and punch runs out his cock. From time to time, hot hors d'oeuvres pop out the baboon's ass with a loud farting noise. When this happens, the huntsmen roar with bestial laughter and the fags shriek and twitch. Master of the hunt is Captain Everhard, who was drummed out of the Queen's 69th for palming a jockstrap in a game of strip poker. Motorcycles careening, jumping, overturning, spitting, shrieking, shitting baboons fighting hand to hand with the huntsman. Riderless cycles scrabbling about in the dust like crippled insects attacking baboon and huntsman. The party leader rides in triumph through yipping crowds. A dignified old man shits at sight of him and tries to sacrifice himself under the wheels of the car. Party leader: don't sacrifice your old dried-up person under the wheels of my brand-new Buick Roadmaster convertible with white-walled tires, hydraulic windows, and all the trimmings. It's a chip Arab trick. Look to thy accent, Ivan. Save it for fertilizer. We refer you to the Conservation Department to consummate your swell purpose. Hassan is a notorious liquefactionist and suspected to be a secret sender. Shucks, boys, he says with a disarming grin, I'm just a bloomin' old cancer and I gotta proliferate. He picks up a Texas accent associating with Dry-Hole Dutton, the Dallas Wildcatter, and he wears cowboy boots and a 10-gallon hat at all times, indoors and out. His eyes are invisible behind black glasses, his face smooth and blank as wax above a well-cut suit made entirely from immature, high-denomination banknotes. Banknotes are, in fact, currency, but they must mature before they can be negotiated. They keep hatching out all over me, he says shyly. It's like, gee, I don't know how to say it. It's like I was a mummy scorpion carrying those little baby notes around on my warm body and feeling them grow. Gosh, I hope I don't bore you with all this. Salvador, known as Sally to his friends, he always keeps a few friends around and pays them by the hour, got cured in the slunk business in World War II. The Pure Food and Drug Department have his picture in their files, a heavy-faced man with an embalmed look, as if paraffin had been injected under the skin, which is smooth, shiny, and poreless. One eye is dead gray color, round as a marble with flaws and opaque spots. The other is black and shiny, an old, undreaming insect eye. His eyes are normally invisible behind black glasses. He looks sinister and enigmatic. His gestures and mannerisms are not yet comprehensible, like the secret police of a larval state. In moments of excitement, Salvador is apt to lapse into broken English. His accent at such moments suggests an Italian origin. He reads and speaks Etruscan. A squad of accountant investigators have made a life work of Sal's international dossier. His operations extend through the world in an inextricable, shifting web of subsidiaries, front companies, and aliases. He has held 23 passports and been deported 49 times. Deportation proceedings pending in Cuba, Pakistan, Hong Kong, and Yokohama. Salvador Hassan O'Leary, alias the Shoe Store Kid, alias Wrong Way Marv, alias Afterbirth Leary, alias Slunky Pete, alias Placenta Juan, alias K.Y. Ahmed, alias El Chinche, alias El Culito, for 15 solid pages of dossier, first tangled with the law in New York City, where he was traveling with a character known to the Brooklyn police as Blubber Wilson, who hustled his goofball money shaking down fetishists in shoe stores. Hassan was charged with third-degree extortion and conspiracy to impersonate a police officer. He had learned the shake man's number one rule, DT, ditch tin, which corresponds to the pilot's KFS, keep flying speed. As the vigilante puts it, if you get a rumble, kid, ditch your piece of tin if you have to swallow it. So they didn't bust him with a queer badge. Hassan testified against Wilson, who drew pen and death. Hassan's case was noli prost. I'd have drawn a nickel, Hassan said, if I hadn't met a decent cop. Hassan met a decent cop every time he took a fall. His dossier contains 3 pages of monikers indicating his proclivity for cooperating with the law, playing ball, the cops call it. Others call it something else. Abe the Fuzz Lover, Finky Marv, the Crooning Hebe, Ollie the Stool, Wrong O Sal, the Wailing Spick, the Sheeny Soprano, the Bronx Opera House, the Copper's Gin, the Answering Service, the Squeaking Syrian, the Cooing Cocksucker, the Musical Fruit, the Wrong Asshole, the Fairy Fink, Leary the Narc, the Lilting Leprechaun, Grassy Gert. He opened a sex shop in Yokohama, pushed junk in Beirut, pimped in Panama. During World War II, he shifted into high, took over a dairy in Holland and cut the butter with used axle grease, cornered the KY market in North Africa, and finally hit the jackpot with slunks. He prospered and proliferated, flooding the world with cut medicines and cheap counterfeit goods of every variety. Adulterated shark repellent, cut antibiotics, condemned parachutes, stale anti-venom, inactive serums and vaccines, leaking lifeboats. One more short piece. This is also from Exterminator. It's called From Here to Eternity. Mildred Pierce reporting. I was there. I saw it. I saw women thrown down on Fifth Avenue and raped in their mink coats by blacks and whites and yellows while street urchins stripped the rings from their fingers. A young officer stood nearby. Aren't you going to do something? I demanded. He looked at me and yawned. I found Colonel Bradshaw bivouacking in the Ritz. I told him bluntly what was going on. His eyes glinted shamelessly as he said, "Well, you have to take a broad general view of things." And that's what I have been doing, taking a broad general view of American troops raping and murdering helpless civilians, while American officers stand around and yawn. Been at it a long time, lady. It's the old Army game, from here to eternity. This license was dictated by considerations taken into account by prudent commanders throughout history. It pays to pay the boys off. Even the noble Brutus did it. Points with his left hand in catatonic limestone. The town is yours, soldier brave. Tacitus describes a typical scene. If a woman or a good-looking boy fell into their hands, they were torn to pieces in the struggle for possession, and the survivors were left to cut each other's throats. Mother-loving American army run by old women, many of them religious, my God, hanging American soldiers for raping and murdering civilians. Old Sarge Bellows from here to eternity. What the bloody fucking hell are civilians for? Soldiers pay. The CO stands there and smiles. Just ahead is a Middle Western town on a river. 30,000 civilians. The CO points. It's all yours, boys, every man, woman, and child. God is nigh. Let's get us some civvies. Now, just a minute, boys. Listen to old Sarge. Why make the usual stupid scene, kicking in liquor stores, grabbing anything in sight? You wake up hungover in an alley, you're prick sore from fucking dry cunts and assholes. Your eye gouged out by a broken beer bottle. Yeah, you and your asshole buddy wanted the same piece of ass. No fun in that. Why not leave it like this? They go about their daily routines, business as usual, schools all open. You see what I mean? And we just take what we want when we want it. Cool and steady and easy, and make them like it. The young lieutenant from camouflage sees what he means. Boys, swimming pools and locker rooms full of them. Getting it steady year after year. Now that's what I call pay.
Suicide Sutra. Everybody is invited to participate in this poem. It's as easy as cooking a package of frozen lima beans. You just follow the instructions in the poem, and the instructions are intensifying your body, tightening your muscles and tightening your whole body, tightening your fingers and your arms and your hands and your back and your legs, and just getting your body totally tight. In other words, you should get uptight. You can't remember where you are. You have forgotten who you are. You have forgotten who you are. You can't even remember what the words mean. You can't even remember what the words mean. And you want to do it, but you can't. And you don't know how to change it, and you don't know how to change it. And you tighten your fingers, and you tighten your fingers, and you tighten your hands, and you tighten your hands, and you tighten your wrists, and you tighten your wrists, and you tighten your forearms and your elbows, and you tighten your forearms and your elbows, and you tighten your forearms and your elbows, and you tighten your upper arms, and you tighten your upper arms, shoulders, and you tighten your shoulders, and you tighten your shoulders. You are in jail, you are locked in the space, you are locked in the space, it's dark and smelly, it is dark and smelly, it's filthy, dark and smelly, completely depressing. You are alone, depressing, you are alone, and you are lonely, and you are it's eating your heart out, and it's eating your heart out, and there's no way 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 out. And you tighten your shoulders, and you tighten your shoulders, and you tighten your back muscles, and you tighten your back muscles, and you tighten the curve in your back, and you tighten the curve in your back, and you tighten the cheeks of your ass, and you tighten the cheeks of your ass. The air is liquid, the air is liquid, thick and heavy, pressing on you, thick and heavy, pressing in on you. Giant boulders are crushing against each other, giant boulders are crushing against each other, and they are crushing you, and they are killing you. The air around your body, turns to solid rock. It's smothering you, and you can feel your chest, and you can feel your chest breaking hard. And you just cheeks of your ass, and your ribcage is locked. You are angry, and you really hate it, and you want to scream, and you want to scream, but you can't, because the sound is locked in your throat, And they are pulling your arms off, and they are ripping your arms off, and they are ripping your arms off your body, and they are ripping your arms off your body, and they are twisting your head off, And you tighten your neck, and you tighten your neck, and you tighten your ears, and you tighten your ears, and you tighten your forehead, and you tighten your nose, and you tighten your nose, and you tighten your lips, tighten your cheeks, tighten your jaw, tighten the skin on your skull, tighten the skin on your skull. Your eyes are open, and your eyes are popping out of your head, your eyes are popping out of your head. You are in a doorless, burning house. You are in a doorless, burning house, and closing. Another doorless, burning house inside another doorless, burning house. Another doorless, burning house, and closing inside another, and you are crying. And you tighten your shoulders, and your arms, and your wrists, and you tighten your hand, and you tighten your fingers. And there is a gun in your hand. There is a gun in your hand. There is a gun in your hand. There is a gun caliber revolver. There is a gun caliber revolver. And it's pointing at your face. And it's pointing at your face. And it's pointing at your face. Pointing at your face. And the trigger. And you pull and you pull the trigger. The trigger. The pull and you pull the trigger. The bullet. The bullet. Pull and shoots toward your head. Shoots toward your head. Toward your head. And you are committing suicide. You are committing suicide. You are committing suicide. And it smashes into your face. And it smashes into your face. And it smashes. And it smashes it and blows your skull open and blows your skull open and blows your skull open. Blood and brains and flesh and skin and hair. Blood and brains and flesh and skin and hair. Blood and brains and flesh and skin and hair. Fly into the air. Fly into the air. Fly into the air. You are dying. Fly into the air. You are dying. You are dying. You are dying. You are dying. You are still trying to hold it together. To hold it together. Still trying to hold it together. Trying to hold it. Trying to hold it together. Trying to hold the bloody mess. Trying to hold the bloody mess as it scatters into the room. To hold the bloody mess as it scatters in the room. As it scatters. As it scatters in the room. Hold the bloody mess as it scatters in the room. Hold the bloody mess as it scatters in the room. Hold the bloody mess as it scatters in the room. Hold the bloody mess as it scatters. And you tighten your shoulders and you tighten your shoulders and you straighten your back and you straighten your back and you tighten your crotch and your asshole and you tighten your crotch and your asshole and you suck in your gut and you suck in your gut and you suck in your gut. And you are dead, 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 it's the same, nothing has changed, nothing has changed, only it's a little worse, only it's a little worse, it's more horrible, it's more horrible, it's more horrible, you're just in another hell, you're just in another hell, you're just in another hell, no way out, no way out, no way out. And there's nothing else to do, and there's nothing else to do, and there's nothing else to do but tighten your thigh muscles, and tighten your knees, and tighten your knees, and tighten your calves, and tighten your ankles, and tighten your ankles, and tighten your feet, and tighten your feet, and tighten your toes, and tighten your toes. And there's no time off, there's no time off, there's no time off, and if you go to sleep, you blow it, and if you go to sleep, you blow it. You have forgotten, you are dead, you are dead, you are dead, you are forgotten, you are dead, you are dead. And you go over your body, and you go over your body, and tighten the muscles that have loosened, and tighten the muscles that have loosened. And every muscle is totally intensified, and every muscle is totally intensified. And you are as hard as a rock, and you are as hard as a rock, and you are as hard as a rock. And you hear the long, low roar. You hear the long, low roar of a jet plane. The long, low roar of a jet plane. And it gets louder and louder, and it gets louder and louder, and it gets louder and louder and louder, into a piercing shriek, overhead, into a piercing shriek overhead. A napalm bomb explodes. A napalm bomb explodes. Napalm, sliding everywhere. And you are covered with burning napalm. And you are covered with burning napalm. And you can't believe it's really happening, and you can't believe it's really happening, and you can't believe it's really happening, and your skin is burning, and every inch of you, and every inch of you is burning, and your skin is burning, and can't be rubbed off, it sticks and can't be rubbed off, and has to burn out, and your skin is blistering, and there are blisters inside those blisters, and there are blisters inside those blisters, and cracking blisters inside those, and cracking blisters inside those, and more inside those, and more inside those, and your muscles are cooking, and you smell like a juicy barbecue steak, and you smell like a juicy barbecue steak, and your eyes are open, and your eyes are popping out of your head, and your eyes are popping out of your head, and your eyes are popping out of your head, and your eyes are burning, 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 and you have to get out of here, and you have to get out of here, and you lean forward on your left leg, and you lean forward on your left leg, and you gently lean forward, and sucking your asshole, and sucking your crotch, and straighten your back, and straighten your back, and feel the energy, and feel the inside your gut, inside your gut, feel the energy inside your gut, running up your spine, flowing in a white channel, up into your head, And you go slowly, and you go slowly up, and you go slowly up, and 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 it's like being squeezed through a steel net, and it's like being squeezed through a steel net, and you go higher, and you go higher, and you go higher, and higher, and higher, and higher, and it's like being born, and it's like being born, and it's like being born, a white flower opening, a white flower opening, a flower opening, and it is effortless, and it is effortless, and it is effortless, and it becomes cooler, and it becomes cooler, and cooler, and cooler, and cooler, and calm, and calm, and calm, and calm. And you haven't gotten anywhere, and you haven't gotten anywhere, and you haven't gotten anywhere, only here, only here, only here. Eating human meat. Something inside you, something inside you, something cry, and you heard, and you cry, and you heard, and you heard, and you heard, all inside of you, all inside of you, all inside of you, all inside of you. And I go, and I go, and I eat, and I eat, and I go, and I eat, and I eat. A couple of eggs and bacon, a couple of eggs and bacon, and a drink of Coke, and drink a Coke, and drink a Coke, and then around 10 o'clock, and then around 10 o'clock, I have some candy and potato chips. I have some candy. I have some candy and potato chips. I have some candy. Then at lunchtime I go up to the cafeteria. I go up to the cafeteria. I go up and have a vegetable and have a vegetable, a vegetable and have a vegetable, some meat and a Coke and a Coke and a Coke and a Coke. And then around 3 o'clock, and then around 3 o'clock, and then around another Coke, and then around another Coke, and maybe another Coke, and maybe a donut or a Danish or a Danish donut or a Danish or a Danish Colonel Sanders, Southern fried Colonel Sanders, Southern fried Colonel Sanders, Southern fried, and then I snack, and then I snack, and then I snack, and I have a Coke, and popcorn, and popcorn, and popcorn, and popcorn, and then I get the hungries, 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 and I eat, 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 and I eat. Shop around, compare prices in several stores, check the characteristic signs of freshness, such as a bright, lively color, a bright, lively color, crispness and firmness, buy fruits and vegetables that are ripe, look fresh, and are free from bruises, and are free from bruises, skin punctures, and decay. Jim was tall for his age, with long blonde hair, and mild blue eyes, and he wore jeans, and a football shirt, and Bobby wore jeans and a plaid shirt, and the two 10-year-olds were coming home from school, and Ken, a tall and lanky 15-year-old black guy, said to his friend Bill, Ain't these two the whitest kids? Ain't these two the whitest kids you have ever seen? So the two black guys took the kids to a construction site to had some fun, they shit on the floor, they shit on the boys pick it up, and the boys pick it up, Jim to a ladder, tie Jim to a ladder, applied lit matches to his body, applied lit matches to his body, applied lit matches to his body, fire to his hair, and set fire to his hair, and set fire to his hair, tied him upside down to a pulley, tied him upside down, and immersed him in a barrel of water, and immersed him in a barrel of water for a minute at a time, and immersed him in a barrel of water for a minute and they dangled Bobby, they dangled Bobby, they dangled Giorno out of a window, 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 and they were going to drop him, they were going to drop him, they were going to drop him, they were going to drop pieces of plasterboards over their heads, and they broke over their heads, and they plasterboards over their heads, and they broke pieces of plasterboards over their heads, plasterboards over their heads, barrel of water and immersed them in a barrel of water for their wedges of wood into their knuckles, wedges of wood into their wedges, a hammer into their knuckles, with a hammer into their knuckles, with a hammer, with a hammer, and when they were through, and when they were through, and when they were torturing the boys, torturing the boys, and when they were through, and when they were torturing the boys, lie down, torturing the boys on the cement floor, and fuck them, 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 and rip their assholes open, and rip their assholes open, and rip their assholes open, their assholes open, and told the boys, and told the boys, and told the boys, and told the boys, streak, 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 streak. So about 11 p.m., a group of black men, standing on the corner of Fulton Street, saw running toward them, two naked blonde boys, their faces like blood puddles, their faces like blood puddles, their faces like blood puddles. He has nine heads, he has nine heads, and forearms, and a dragon body, and a dragon body, and a dragon body. He has the head of a crow, he has the head of a crow above the ninth head, he has the head of a crow above the ninth head. He is red, he is red, he is red, he is red, and is surrounded by flames, and is surrounded by flames, and is surrounded by flames. He has eyes, all over his arms and body, all over his arms and body. He has eyes all over his arms and body. And the other guy, with an elephant head, and forearms, and is dancing on a rat, is vomiting jewels, and is dancing on a rat, vomiting jewels, and vomiting jewels, his arms and body. He has eyes all over his arms, personnel mines, anti-personnel mines, laser-guided bombs, night vision devices, cluster bombs, people sniffers, people dancing on a rat, or chemical jewels, and dancing in a rat bodies which react to enemy body odors, thermal images which react to body heat, which react to body button-sized bomblets, and systematic registers which pick up the thump and thud of trucks or troops on the move, pick up the thump and thud of trucks or troops on the move. And he was angry, guarded, and hostile. He was angry, guarded, and hostile. He was angry, guarded, and hostile, and would not keep eye contact, and would not keep eye contact, and would not keep eye contact. Was hyperactive, was hyperactive, with a short attention span, with a short attention span, and pick up the thump and thud of trucks or troops on the move, pick up the thump and thud of trucks or troops on the move. So they put him on 200. He was angry, guarded, and hostile. He was angry, guarded, and hostile. He was angry, guarded, and hostile, and would not keep eye contact, would not keep eye contact, and would not keep eye contact. Was hyperactive, with a short attention span, and denied. You are in the day room, you are in the day room, you are in day room, with the other drugged out people, and the television, and the television, and the television, and the ping pong, and the ping pong, and the ping pong, and you are lying on a couch, covering your ears with your hands, and you are lying on a couch, covering your ears with your hands. Make the world go away, 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 make the world go away. And I love you, and I love you, and I love you, and I love you, and everything is okay, and everything is okay, and everything is okay, and I want to be with you, and I want to be with you, and I want to be with you, and I want to talk to you on the telephone, and I want to talk to you on the telephone, and I want to talk to you on the telephone. I want to come visit you, I want to come visit you, I want to come visit you, I want to live with you, I live with you, I want to live with you, I want to lean into you, I want to lean into you, I want to lean, hug and kiss you, and 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 fuck and suck you, and fuck and suck you, and fuck and suck you. And there's Jack Daniels, and there's Jack Daniels, and there's Jack Daniels, and there's Jack Daniels on the telephone, and I want to go see you. I want to participate in hoppers and poppers and poppers and poppers and yogurt and living farm cookies and yogurt and Pembridge Farm cookies. And you've come so many times and you've hugged and shushed and hugged and shushed and hugged and roll around and suck you and fuck and suck you and fuck into each other and breathe into each other and breathe into each other. And you're not even thinking so much. And you're not even thinking so much. And you're not even thinking so much. And who could have asked for anything more? And who could have asked for anything more? And who could have asked for anything more? Except you've got to get there faster. Except you've got to get there faster. You've got to get there faster, quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker. And it's taking too much time. And it's taking too much time. And it's taking too much time. And you follow me everywhere. And you follow me. And you follow me everywhere to the bathroom. And you follow me to the bathroom. And you follow me to the bathroom. And it's getting a little fucked out. And it's getting a little fucked out. And it's getting a little fucked out. And there's just this fucked bag. And there's just this fucked bag. And there's just this fucked bag who wants more, who wants more, who wants more, who wants more. And it's like feeding chocolates to pigs, and it's like feeding chocolates to pigs, and it's like feeding chocolates to pigs, or driving a taxi, or driving a taxi, or driving a taxi, or being a high school teacher, or being a high school, or being a high school teacher, but that feels so good, feels so good, and you've never felt this way about anyone, never felt this way about anyone, and you've never felt this way about anyone. Here at Riverside, we try to help people. We try to help people. We try to help people achieve dignity and simplicity. Achieve dignity and simplicity in funeral arrangements. At a modest fee. Through advanced planning. We stress advanced planning. It saves all those awful experience. It saves all that awful experience of having to pick out coffins, of having to pick out coffins, and talk about what clothes people should wear, and talk about what clothes people should wear. And we were looking for bacteria. And salmonella, a particularly harmful form of bacteria that is usually transmitted by people, handling the hamburger meat. We visited McDonald's where they claim Americans have eaten 15 billion hamburgers. Americans have eaten 15 billion hamburgers. And Burger King, home of the Big Whopper, and the promise. Have it your way. Hold the pickle, hold the lettuce. Special orders don't upset us. First we bought cooked hamburgers. We requested medium rare, and we got well done. Then we asked for uncooked frozen patties. At first, most of the chains said no. Then they agreed to let us select a random sample. 4 of the chains we found to be selling raw meat with an unsafe level of bacteria, putrefying meat. I'm talking about cellulite. The name given to those fatty deposits, large just below the skin, that cause those ugly lumps, and unsightly bulges, that will let you wear the latest fashions, the clean knits, that set you apart from others. Those lumps, bumps, and bulges, that you couldn't lose before. A hunter carrying a dead deer, across his back, was shot to death. Monday by another hunter, who authorities said believed the deer was alive. Cling, the contact with people. Pleasure, pain, loss, praise and blame. and fame and fame and fame and obscurity and obscurity and obscurity is like food mixed with poison, is like eating food mixed with poison, is like eating food mixed with poison. And we should remain in an unwavering state. And he's talking to you, 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 and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and cluttering your mind with his words, cluttering your mind with his words. He's filling the universe with his sound. He's filling the universe with his sound. He's capturing you. He's capturing you. He's capturing you. Locking you in a stranglehold. Locking you in a stranglehold. 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 In a and 10 floors below is the street, and 10 floors below is the street, and 10 floors below is the street, and you've done it, 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 and you're falling like lead, and you're falling like lead, and you're falling like lead, down and 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 you've just and you've just and you've just and you've just taken and you've just taken and you've just taken and you've just taken a bottle of sleeping pills, and you've just taken a bottle of sleeping pills, and you're in bed, and you're in bed, and you're in bed, and you try to reach for the telephone, and you try to reach for the telephone, and you try to reach for the telephone, but you can't move, but you can't move, you can't raise your arm, you can't raise your arm, you can't raise your arm, and you try, 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 and you force your fingers, and you force your fingers to crawl over the blanket, and you force your fingers to crawl over the blanket, to crawl over the blanket, and you lean all your weight, and you lean all your weight on your right side, on your right side, on your right side, and you've almost made it, and you've almost made it, and you've almost made it, and you're almost touching the telephone, and you're almost touching the telephone, you're almost touching the telephone, and you fall, 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 and you crash, and you crash between the bed and the bed table, and you crash between the bed and the bed table, between the bed and the bed table. Bed and the bed table 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 and the bed table. Bitten by dogs, and you're being 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 bitten by dogs, you're being bitten by dogs, you're being bitten by dogs, and they're biting your face, and you're biting your face, and they're biting your face, and there's this German shepherd, and there's this German shepherd, and he has his teeth into your thigh, and he has his teeth into your thigh, he has his teeth into your thigh, and he's pulling, and he's pulling, and he's tearing, and tearing, and hurting, and he's pulling, and tearing, and hurting, and you don't know how you're going to get this one, and you don't know how you're going to get this one, and you don't know how you're going to get this one, and he's still talking to you, and he's still talking to you, and he's still talking to you, and he's saying so many things, and he's saying so many things, and he's saying so many things, and he's saying them so fast, and he's saying them so fast, and he's saying them so fast that you know something's got to be wrong, that you know something's got to be wrong, that you know something's got to be wrong, and you can't take it anymore, and you can't take it anymore, and you can't take it anymore. And you go limp, and you go limp, and you go limp, and slowly grab hold of him, and slowly grab hold of him, and slowly grab hold of him, and hug him, and hug him, and hug him, and hug him, and kiss him, and kiss him, and kiss him, and kiss him, and stick your tongue in his mouth, and stick your tongue in his mouth, and love him, and love him, and love him, and love him, and fuck him, and fuck him, and fuck him, and fuck him, until he is quiet, until he is quiet, until he is quiet. And it feeds on spiders and insects. It feeds on spiders and insects, and grows to a length of 2.5 feet. Human hamburgers are the real Big Mac, a righteous hamburger, and you can get it, really want, if you want. Fear has become pervasive at the three massive state mental institutions, where patients are robbed, assaulted, and raped, and where inadequate security enables criminals from the outside, to enter the hospitals, enables criminals from the outside to enter the hospitals, to enter the hospitals, sometimes with keys to the wards, sometimes with keys to the wards, and to victimize inmates and employees, State police have termed apparent suicide, the death Friday of Walter Trujillo 18, whose body was found near his mother's home, Sometimes when you have a habit, and you break it, it breaks your heart. The youth had been shot in the head, and a small caliber rifle was found beside the body. And it's a sunny afternoon, in the middle of the first phase of the famine. Millions are starving, and the rate of final collapse, is increasing rapidly, and here, 10,000 people die of starvation each day, 10,000 people die of starvation each day. And the three burial grounds in the city area, are already full. And I'm scared, and I don't know what to do, And it hits children hardest, killing many, and stunting the growth of many others, both mentally and physically, so that they are likely to be handicapped for life, And due to the aridity of the climate, which makes it difficult for decay bacteria to survive, Many of the bodies were mummified with the dehydrated flesh still on the bones, and the hair looking much as it did in life, And the seriously malnourished baby tends to be apathetic, less demanding of attention from its mother, and therefore getting less. And the result is likely to be further malnutrition. And withdrawal into a bleak, empty world of its own. The men's room was closed. The men's room was
The men's room was closed. The men's
room was closed.
And I never got the money, 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 and I never got the money. No, not from Ed, 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 not from Ed. Ed wouldn't let us see, and Ed wouldn't let us see, and Ed wouldn't let us see how much is coming in, how much wouldn't let us see how much coming in, and drove him thousands of miles, and drove him thousands of miles, drove him thousands of miles, thousands of miles, and some in the desert thinking, and some in the desert thinking, and some in the desert thinking I was driving on John's legs, driving on John's legs, on the decks, little pink tablets, the decks, little pink tablets, or I saw lots of pink tablets, or I saw lots of toads in the road, or I saw lots of toads in the road, sleeping on hard floors, sleeping on hard floors, sleeping on hard floors, drove all day, 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 all day, all day, all day, all day, drove all day, all day, all day, all day, all day, there was nothing, there was during relatively good time, during one meal a day, they would eat one meal a day, one meal a day. But this year, during the aftermath of the summer flood, many of them were only eating once every other day. Sometimes once every 3 days, sometimes once every 3 days, sometimes once every 3 days, sometimes once every 3 days. And he walked me home, and he walked me home along the sand, and he walked me home along the sand, and we made a date along the sand, and we made a date to swim together tomorrow. We made a date to swim together tomorrow. And I'm drifting in happiness, and I'm drifting in happiness, and I'm drifting in happiness. And each week with Tommy, and each week with Tommy is a new delight. Each week with Tommy is a new delight, is a new delight. I love him, 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 I love him desperately, I love him desperately, I love him desperately, I love him desperately. And Tommy promised to come this evening, Tommy promised to come this evening, Tommy promised to come this evening. It's late, it's late, it's late. I wish you were here now, I wish you were here now, I wish you were here now, I wish you were here now. I learned today that Miss Rollins can't renew my lease, that Miss Rollins can't renew my lease. I have to leave here, I have to leave here, I have to leave here. He didn't come last night, he didn't come last night, he didn't come last night. Not even a phone call, not even a phone call today, not even a phone call today. I hope he isn't tired of me, I hope he isn't tired of me, I hope he isn't tired of me, I hope he isn't tired of me. I could forgive you for anything, 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 if only you would come, if only you would come with me, with me, with me, with me, with me, with me, I begged him to come 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 with me, but the way he acted, I was sure, but the way he acted, he never loved me, he never loved me, he never loved me, he never loved me, he never even cared for me, he never even cared for me, he never even cared for me, the money I gave Queenie and Andy, the money I gave Queenie and Andy, I gave Queenie and Andy was all he wanted, was all he wanted, was all he wanted. My last night in the house, my last night in the house, my last night in the house. Tom phoned to say he was coming, Tom phoned to say he was coming here, Tom phoned to say he was coming here. I shouldn't have threatened him, 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 I hate 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 him, no, I don't care about anything but him, I don't care about anything but him, I don't care about anything but him. He mustn't see me like this, he mustn't see me like this, he mustn't see me like this. Just one more drink, just one more drink, just one more drink, and I'll put on my makeup, and I'll put on my makeup, and I'll put on my makeup. What happens is the animals, what happens is the animals are put in this rolling cage, and when the doors close, and the pumps turned on, and when the doors close, and the pumps turned on, it takes about 20 seconds for the animal to fall unconscious, it takes about 20 seconds for the animal to fall unconscious, another 60 seconds, another 60 seconds for the animal to die, another 60 seconds for the animal to die, but the door is kept closed, closed for another 20 minutes, for another 20 minutes after that, for another 20 minutes after that, just to make sure the animal can't be revived, just to make sure the animal can't be revived, the animal can't be revived. Because most Americans eat the way they do, consuming 2 to 4 times the meat, consuming 2 to 4 times the meat as the body can use, 2 to 4 times the meat as the body can use, and excreting the excess protein, and excreting the excess protein, they could feed the world, with their shit, they could feed the world with their shit. And there are aggressive ones, and there are aggressive ones, and there are aggressive ones just too dangerous to be kept alive, just too dangerous to be kept alive, just too dangerous to be kept alive. But with them are the ones who just fought back, but with them are the ones who just fought back, and now they will become the property, and now they will become the property of a subcontractor in New Jersey, and now they will become the property of a subcontractor in New Jersey who will process them into fertilizer, who will process them into fertilizer, who will process them into fertilizer. And you are pushing out around you, you are pushing out around you, you are swelling, your body is getting thick, your fingers are twice normal size, your hands are gigantic, your body is getting larger, and stronger, and totally connected, and you are totally connected to the space, you are in, to the space you are in here, you are in here. For the same reason that Chief Mano would give the young warriors his urine to drink, would give the young warriors his urine to drink, would give his urine to drink, to give them strength, and fighting spirit, and they would also be given small pieces of the dried penis of a slain enemy, small pieces of the dried penis of a slain enemy to eat, small pieces of the dried penis of a slain enemy to eat. And the traditional tranquility of this hot industrial center of 1.5 million people shattered by a series of urban guerrilla actions, siege mentality, now occupies the millionaire families. And you're not going to give, and you're not going to give anything to anyone, you're not going to give anything to anyone, you're going to rip them all, rip them all, kick them in the ass. And his financial statement showed his personal total holdings at $218 million with a net worth of $62.5 million, with a 62 million, and an average annual income for the last 10 years, $4.6 million. And if she is gloomy, and cannot be made to smile, if she is gloomy and cannot be made to smile, the whole country will suffer, the whole country will suffer, and it will just build and fester to more and more delay. And they have fortified their cars bulletproof, and hired dozens of bodyguards, dozens of bodyguards, and laden with the latest automatic weapons, And you're in trouble, you don't know what to do. A Dodge, and a fleet of black and white police cars, and a fleet of black and white police cars, bellow and screech, smash their way into a 90-minute car chase. The wealthy families have also quietly dropped from the social circuit, and withdrawn behind the high walls of their compounds, withdrawn behind the high walls of their compounds. And your skin is 4-inch thick plate steel, your skin is 4-inch thick plate steel, muscles are reinforced concrete, your muscles are reinforced concrete, your bones are steel girders, you are a battleship, a bomber, a Saturn, and you are absolutely strong, and point inside your belly, it is perfectly calm, there's no anxiety, the strength is effortless. And you are floating on a river, and you are floating on a river, and you are floating on a river, floating down the green river, floating down the green river, floating down the green river, in Utah, floating on a rubber raft, floating on a rubber raft for 7 days, floating on a rubber raft for 7 days, just lying there on this waterbed, floating through the canyons, floating through the canyons, and you become part of the river, and you become part of the river, and you become part of the river, and the canyon walls are 2,000 feet high, and the canyon walls are 2,000 feet high, 2,000 feet high on either side of you, and you see clearly and continuously, 250 million years in giant layers of rock, 250 million years in giant layers of rock. And there are castles and palaces, and there are castles and palaces, and there are castles and palaces, and the canyon walls are Persepolis and Susa, and the canyon walls are Persepolis and Susa, and Darius, and Syrian slaves carrying offerings, and Syrian slaves carrying offerings, and the houses of gods, and the houses of gods, and the temples of gods, and the temples of gods, endless gods, and jealous gods, and jealous gods, and jealous gods, in endless worlds, in endless worlds, in endless worlds. And it's fascinating and spectacular, and it's fascinating and spectacular, and the rocks are enchanting, and the rocks are enchanting, and the rocks are enchanting, and your mind keeps looking at the rocks, and your mind keeps looking at the rocks, and your mind keeps looking at the rocks, looking for something and not finding it, looking for something and not finding it, looking for something and not finding it, because you have forgotten you are water, because you have forgotten you are water, because you have forgotten you are water, the heavy water flowing, forward, on and on and on and on and on and on. Down and down and down and down and down and green and green and green and green, without ever thinking of being water, without ever thinking of being water, without ever thinking of being water, and it's totally empty, and it's totally empty, and it's totally empty, and it's totally empty, flowing like this room is flowing, flowing like this room is flowing, flowing like this room is flowing, heavy and empty and boring, heavy and empty and boring, heavy and empty and boring as this room, the same as the space you're in now. The same as the space you're in now, the same as the space you're in now. And in honor of the day, he shed his paratrooper uniform, and beret, for an elegant white and gold robe, cap for an elegant white and gold robe and cap. And its prime ribs of beef, and it's prime ribs of beef, and fresh stone crab, and big black mushrooms, sautéed in butter, and big black mushrooms sautéed in butter, and champagne, and cognac, and it feels so good, and it feels so good, you've forgotten how it feels, and it's never going to end, and it's never going to end, because it belongs to you, and it's never going to end because it belongs to you. And it's milk and honey, and kisses and tongues, and touchies and feelies, and Philadelphia cream cheese, and and it's sweet warm flesh, and great big hugs, and lots of cums, and the juicy Georgia peach, and the juicy Georgia peach, is getting a little overripe, and a slight feeling of insecurity, that gradually begins to spiral, and the plug in the bathtub gets pulled, and the plug in the bathtub gets pulled, and everything goes down the drain, into the sewer. And the air of unreality was thick here, as President Nixon, on as beautiful a day as anyone could have wished for, And he was too drunk to crawl out, because when they finally found him, the next day, he'd been frozen in the ice, and was still unconscious, Nearby, lay the pelvis of a man, lay the pelvis of a man, severed at the belt, the pelvis of a man, severed at the belt, two white thigh bones, sticking from blood-soaked trousers, And a 30-year-old unemployed cook was charged with murder yesterday, for allegedly beating one of his three sons, to death in 1970, and then entombing the boy's body, with cement and plaster, in a trunk, in a Bronx basement, And everyone is laughing at you, and making fun of you, and making fun of you, and they are drunk and stoned and nasty, and you are surrounded by this terrifying freak show, and they are ridiculing you, and laughing at you, and you are uptight, and you are really tight, really tight, to say to anyone, and you can't think of anything to say to anyone, and nobody will talk to you, and you are confused and lonely and unhappy and freaked out, and you are confused and lonely and unhappy and freaked out, and you just want to hold somebody, you are waiting in an airport, in a Holiday Inn, in a Ford Pinto, in a Dodge truck, in a television set, and the Ajax woman is scrubbing away at your heart, until there is nothing left, to work with, and whatever is left, just goes down the drain pipe, and it all seems to you, like big loss, and a missing man who apparently was murdered, is believed buried under a mammoth mountain of garbage, and landfill in Staten Island, where his corpse was dumped months ago, after it was picked up with the refuge, And the slight dissatisfaction with the present, the lack of satisfaction, always there, getting ready, preparing to do it, but actually you're only always getting ready, as if listening to this poem might be it, but I wouldn't bet on it, I hope you didn't think you were going to get anything out of it. I hope you didn't think you were going to get anything out of it. You were going to get anything out of it. You don't even get your money back. No refunds, no free refunds. Sorry, folks. There are no promises. And it's a slow wasting disease, and a slow wasting disease that lets the mind watch, as the body dies. And that's my conceptualization, and if it isn't so, then it's one big mess, and it's one big mess. An evangelist was sewn up inside a tom-tom, and died after 3 weeks of torture, little natural pools were formed by braces of rocks, So we all jumped into the cold water, So we all jumped into the cold water, and floated on our backs, gazing up at the soaring volcanic rock walls, at the soaring volcanic rock walls, of the canyon. And you were sick, but you're not sick anymore, At least you think so, You think you're all right, And Vajra hell is something you did wrong, is something you really did wrong, And the result has turned into cancer, and it's eating your insides out, Your stomach, your lungs, and liver, and when there is nothing left, but your skin, it eats your skin, and then something comes from outside, and then something comes from outside, and forms a new skin, and the cancer continues to eat it away, and it doesn't hurt anymore, and it hasn't hurt for so long, and it doesn't hurt anymore, and you haven't cried since the beginning, but you just want to cry, you just want to cry again, but then you've forgotten, you even wanted to, you've forgotten about cancer, The incredible sweep of the desert, of great golden mesas, with purple shadows, and tremendous stars, appearing at dusk, from a turquoise sky. The Buddhas, having transformed themselves into shellfish, having transformed themselves into shellfish. Red pearls were produced in their stomachs. Ground the gods, together with their guardians, into dust. When the king tried to burn him alive, by his magical powers, he transformed the middle of the fire into a lake. And he is born of a lotus. He is born of the lotus. The guru who roars like a lion, who is like the rays of the sun, who is the lotus-born Vajra, And you're not thinking so much, these days. You're thinking less and less now, and it has fallen away, and it has fallen away, and it is good and empty, and quiet and still, without memory, without wanting, totally confident, and totally secure, and it is big and full and lucid, and inconceivably clear, and it is gentle and light and blissful, and when you're there, you don't know you are, and you stay there, then you bring yourself back, smiling, 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 and you breathe out into it, and you breathe out into it, and you breathe out into it, and you are totally naked, and you are totally naked, and you are totally naked, and totally exposed, and totally exposed, and totally exposed, and you are kissing, and you are kissing, and you are kissing, and surrendering, and surrendering, and surrendering, and it never stops, and it never stops, and it never stops, and it never ends, and it never ends, and it never ends. And it's so pretentious, and it's so pretentious, and it's so pretentious, it's got to be a joke, it's got to be a joke, it's got to be a joke. And it is absolutely empty, it is absolutely empty, it is absolutely empty. And you and it aren't even there, and you and it aren't even there, and you and it aren't even there. And afterwards, his mind exhausted, and everything exhausted, he dies. And like the space in a broken vase, his body dissolves into atoms, and his mind dissolves into perfect space, leaving no trace. And let's say you're a policeman, a fireman, a sanitation worker, and you need a washer, a dryer, or a refrigerator, a dryer, or you're a school teacher, or you're a school teacher, a transit worker, or a construction worker, and you're looking for a TV, and you're looking for a TV, a stereo, or maybe a stereo, or maybe a nice air conditioner, to keep cool, and having no expectations, and having no expectations, and going to whatever level, and you too can become an expert, and you too can become an expert in boredom, 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 become an expert in boredom, become an expert in